Hi everyone, my name is Briley Casanova and I work with Complete Performance Coaching, which is an online-based mental performance coaching program, and I'm really excited to be here with you guys today to talk about my top tips for overcoming fear, building confidence, and gaining mental toughness. I think those are three things that, everyone, no matter what type of work you do, no matter what type of activity or sport or just, no matter what you do, I think we can all learn to, benefit from and find ways to work towards those things. So, today I wanted to talk about, starting with the main components for overcoming fear, which I think leads to building confidence. Like, overcoming fear and building confidence, they go hand in hand, right? I feel like you can't really have one without the other. So whether or not you have a particular fear or something that gives you anxiety, even with the things I'm going to be talking about today, I think you'll find that by nature, or as a side effect of working towards overcoming a fear or anxiety, you're going to find that you're building confidence anyway alongside that. So hopefully, no matter what you take away from today, I hope it leaves you feeling a little more confident, a little more mentally tough. And I'll give you, specific concrete ways to implement those things in your life. So first, I wanted to start by talking about the three essential things that you need when it comes to overcoming a mental block or a fear or something that makes you anxious. And those three things are patience, optimism, and communication. And so I tend to work with a lot of younger athletes, so, specifically younger gymnasts. And one of the things that comes with gymnastics is you're doing a lot of really scary skills, right? Like you're flipping backwards, you're twisting in the air, there's a whole bunch of, things to be scared of, at least when it comes to being a gymnast and working on such difficult skills. So I guess I'll kind of use some of those examples. So first I said, patience. That's the first thing that you need when it comes to getting through something that's really scary for you. Maybe for you it's public speaking, or, test taking if you're a student. But if you're a gymnast, or just any athlete in general, you need patience to get through something that's really scary for you, right? It's a lot harder to overcome a fear or, build confidence or become mentally tough when you're really impatient with yourself, or maybe there's an external circumstance or person that's, not being patient with you. And when it comes to, again, like giving the example of being an athlete, maybe your coach is, really just not working with you or being patient with you, or maybe if you're in a situation with a parent who's really frustrated and not being patient with you, those are things that can really hurt you when it comes to trying to, overcome a fear or mental block, those kinds of things. So you need patience, number one, and especially with yourself. I think that what it comes down to is you need to be patient with yourself. Give yourself time to work through this. Things like this can't be overcome overnight. So that's patience. The next thing that you need is optimism, right? It's a lot harder, again, to get through a fear when you're really negative or your environment seems really negative. You need to have a sense of optimism or hope or faith to kind of bring you through a time of when you need to overcome a fear or something that's giving you anxiety. Like I said, it's just really hard to get through a fear if you don't have that sort of, that optimistic voice inside your head or that kind of mindset. It's just one of those things you really, really need. And the third thing that you need, and again, this kind of mostly stems from yourself, but you need communication, whether that means you asking for help when it comes to getting through a fear or a mental block, whatever it may be. You need to communicate openly and honestly with, if you're working with someone else to try and get yourself through it, you need to communicate what you need to be successful. And even if you're not working with, a coach or a boss or a teacher or, anyone else, maybe it's just you in this situation, you need to communicate with yourself. You need to be willing to, listen to what your body and your mind need to be successful and overcome that fear. And you need to, just be willing to listen to yourself too. So it's identifying and picking up on, maybe what you think you need to be successful. And that could just be like, maybe you rely on your gut instincts. Maybe that's what it is for you. Or maybe you rely on logic. Like, what is kind of your situation telling you right now that you need? Maybe you need help, or maybe you need space, or, whatever it is. Basically, to round out this first tip here is you need patience, optimism, and communication. Those are the three things you need to get through a mental block and overcome fear. And the next thing I like to talk about with my clients, at least, something that I've learned over the years to build confidence, you know, to overcome that fear. A good goal to set for yourself when you're let's say you're like in the middle of this fear and you just feel like, you know, time's moving by so slowly, you feel like you're never gonna get through it. I think a good goal to have and something to like tangibly think about is think of your confidence on a scale of 1 to 10. So I like to, you know, pick out a confidence number, you know, just when I'm in the moment. If I'm really going through a fear, like if I'm scared to flip backwards on the beam, or, you know, I'm scared to make a sale, or I'm scared to speak in public, where can I put myself on the confidence scale that will get me, you know, just enough to, you know, get through that moment. And so I like to talk about with my athletes all the time is the goal is to get to a 7 out of a 10 on that confidence scale. And I really think what that looks like, or maybe what that feels like, if that, you know, if that doesn't make sense to you or you haven't heard of that before, is you kind of feel like you're still nervous, you're still shaky, anxious, maybe sweaty, breathing a little heavier, but even though you feel all those physical things that come with being scared or being nervous or anxious, it's not enough to keep you from executing what you need to do. So it's kind of that 7 out of 10 is that sweet spot of just confident enough, but still feeling a little bit uncomfortable. You know what I mean? So, again, just to kind of shape the 1 to 10, the 1 is, you know, not confident at all, don't even bother, even thinking about it just makes me so nervous and I won't do it, like I'm just gonna avoid it completely. And 10 is like, I'm going for this, I'm so confident, nothing can stop me, I'm feeling great, and there's like zero fear at all. So again, that 7 out of 10 is kind of that sweet spot where it's just enough to outweigh the fear, but you still have a little bit left in that, like in that feeling. So hopefully that makes sense to you, and maybe gives you something to think about when it comes to striving to working through your fear and working towards your goals. So again, that's the 7 out of 10 on the confidence scale that I like to talk about with my clients. And so with that, one of, I think, the more general things that we all can do and stuff that we don't really think about very frequently, it really takes a mindset shift to overcome a fear and, you know, build confidence. Again, I think those things go together, but you know, when it comes to resetting your mindset, I think one of the things we don't think about very frequently is even the thought of accepting our fear and learning from it, right? Like, I think that when we think of things that we're scared of and that we, you know, maybe we want to avoid it completely, or we want to like find a shortcut or maybe even find something differently completely to accomplish the same goal. But maybe instead of doing those things that, you know, if you've tried some of those things, like, you know, maybe taking a shortcut or trying something different, you still have that fear inside you. You didn't exactly conquer that. You just found a different way around it, which is totally fine. Don't, you know, I'm not trying to say that that's not always a good idea, but if you really want to build that confidence piece and really overcome that fear, not just like work around it, we have to get to a place where we accept our fear and are willing to learn from it. So, you know, kind of internalizing it a little bit deeper and just maybe understanding our fear a little bit better. You know, I think that comes with, you know, being willing to fail. I think a lot of us are so conditioned to strive for perfection instead of excellence, when in reality, excellence is great. Excellence is, maybe it's not perfection, but excellence is making mistakes and failing, but learning from that and growing from it and getting better because of it, and maybe even in spite of it, you know? So I think resetting your mindset to maybe not focus on being a perfectionist, but maybe striving for excellence instead. And I think when you're willing to mess up several times and learn from those mistakes you make, instead of trying to avoid mistakes and being perfect no matter what, there comes a sense of, you know, again, it's that building confidence piece that really comes to life. And I think it's just that extra, you know, thing that you get. I mean, I just can't think of one perfectionist or perfect person out there. And maybe even the people you think are perfect, trust me when I say that they may appear perfect, but why they appear perfect to you maybe, and, you know, just flawless, is because they've made mistakes and learned from it and have moved forward beyond those things, beyond the imperfections, beyond the mistakes. And they just didn't let their mistakes or failures define them or, you know, outshine their accomplishments. I hope you guys know what I mean when I say that. But again, I think when it comes to being willing to fail, there comes almost a sense of comfort or maybe more openness with that process, where if you didn't have that openness, I feel like that's almost kind of hiding behind perfectionism. You know, I think if you're, you know, a true perfectionist, you're willing to, you know, be vulnerable enough to be weak, you know, but weak in the sense of, I mean, we all have weaknesses, but are we using them to, you know, push ourselves harder and move forward and get stronger and get generally better? You know, I hope what I'm saying is making sense. But anyway, I think my point with this, you know, resetting your mindset idea is, I think it's better to try and to fail than to hold yourself back completely from trying it all and letting your fear consume you and, you know, not pushing yourself to grow from the experience, you know? So hopefully that resetting your mindset to appreciating and being open to, you know, your fear and willing to learn from it, making mistakes, you know, falling down, as opposed to, you know, being so scared to the point where you don't try anything at all, right? So hopefully that makes sense. But I think, you know, the next idea that I wanted to talk about with you guys now was, you know, maybe a little unconventional, maybe no one's told you this before, or maybe someone has, and that's great. But I think we get so wrapped up in our fear and let it consume us that we try and force it. Like, we really just try so hard. We try to try, maybe. But I think the idea of not trying to force it and stop trying so hard, maybe that can be another like tangible thing for you to implement. And I think that, again, that kind of comes with that resetting the mind, you know, shift your mindset just a little bit and maybe don't try and force it. Take a break from it, you know, again, stop trying so hard. So yeah, I think it's hard to overcome a fear when you're super stressed, everything around you is chaotic, you know, your fear finds a way to like consume you and overtake your thoughts and your actions. But accepting your fear and working through it and, you know, finding a time and a way to take some deep breaths and like take a break from it, I think is super valuable and something that we don't necessarily think about. And I think, you know, an example that comes to mind is, you know, public speaking. If if public speaking is such a huge fear for you, I'm sure if you've done a public speaking event and, you know, they usually give you lots of time to prepare, right? So, I guess if public speaking is one of your big fears, then, you know, I'm sure the days leading up, you're just constantly, that's all you're thinking about, right? You're trying to write your speech, you're trying to make sure your thoughts are organized, and you're trying to write down all your bullet points, and, you know, you're deciding on, well, do I speak from the heart, or do I speak word for word from this paper that I wrote, you know? There's so many decisions, you know, or what am I going to wear that day? What if, you know, I want to look good, I want to feel good, there's so many things I'm sure that come with public speaking and things to, you know, potentially be really nervous about. But in that instance, and again, that's just an example I'm thinking of, but instead of like overthinking it and trying to maybe overplan and overcompensate for the things that make you nervous when it comes to that event, taking a break, maybe like 2 days before, it's like you've done everything you can do, you take a day off or something from it, or, you know, half a day, you take those 2 days before, you take a half a day off, and maybe then just the night before you're like, okay, at this point I've done all I can do, let's fine tune the last couple things, and then tomorrow it's just all gonna be okay, and I'm gonna do what I can. And, you know, at that point, you've really done all you can do. I think if it's the night before and you're still stressed about it, hopefully you just gotta accept like you've done everything you can do, and just go with it, and, you know, just let it happen. No matter what happens, I think accepting the outcome before it happens, like just knowing that no matter what you do, you're still a worthy person, you're still gonna be okay. I don't know, maybe that's something helpful for you today as well. And you know, if you're an athlete, the way I could translate that example for you is like thinking about competition day, you know. Usually I think the day before the competition, you're probably not practicing the hardest you've ever practiced before, right? Because you want to be fresh, and you want to be, you know, energized and ready to go for the next day. But really, the day or the night before your competition, you've done all you can do, right? There's not another thing you can do to prepare yourself, really, at least physically. It's just about your mindset and about, you know, how mentally ready are you for this, right? But I think, again, just like not forcing it, stop trying so hard, you know, do all that you can do before the event, or, you know, whatever is like scaring you. But when the time comes, like right before, remember you've done everything you can do. I think that's the main message I want to get across to you today with that specific example. So here are some things I want to start to get into, another like maybe concrete idea of something that you can take with you moving forward when it comes to like building your confidence, overcoming a fear, or this is more, again, this is a little bit of a more general piece of advice or a tip that I want to share with you, but I think the most like mentally tough people are really good at being the most mindful people. They practice mindfulness, and by way of deep breathing. I think practicing deep breathing techniques is a great way to start when it comes to practicing mindfulness. So let's say you're in a very stressful situation, you're very nervous, you're very anxious, you can't quite seem to get your thoughts or your actions under control, you don't know what to do, you're just terrified out of your mind. I think a good place to start is by set a timer on your phone, on your watch, whatever you have, set a timer for 30 seconds and stop everything else you're doing. So stop what you're doing, literally find a place to sit down in a chair. I mean, get in a comfortable position. I think sitting in a chair is probably a good way to go if you can do that, or sit on the ground, or just stand, whatever you can do to like just physically stop what you're doing. Set a timer for 30 seconds, and for those 30 seconds, what you're going to do is you're just going to breathe. And a more tangible way of, just standing there breathing for 30 seconds, break up those 30 seconds into, so 3 big deep breaths, that means 10 seconds each, right? So you're going to breathe in through your nose for 5 seconds, count to 5 as you're breathing in through your nose, and then you're going to count to 5 as you breathe out through your mouth. And you're going to do that 3 times. That equals 30 seconds of deep breathing. So even if you don't have a timer, you can, this is something you can do no matter where you are, no matter what you're doing. We all, I think, have 30 seconds to dedicate to quieting our mind and just feeling our physical sensations. So as you're, sitting or standing or, just breathing, feel the sensations that are taking place in your body. Maybe you have to put your hands on your heart and feel your heart physically slow down its beating, because usually when you're very nervous and very anxious, your heart's beating really fast, right? So, no matter what you can do to just like really feel your physical sensations. Maybe another thing you can do, not everyone's comfortable with this, but even just closing your eyes when you're doing that, it can make a huge difference in the experience of being mindful about your physical state for just 30 seconds of your day. So if you need to put both hands on your heart, one hand on your heart and one hand on your stomach to feel yourself breathe in and out, no matter what it is, just those simple things, I think, it only takes 30 seconds of your day to kind of like refocus, reset it and get it, so to speak. So like resetting your mind, not only your physical state, but your mindset. I think there's something so magical that happens when you take 30 seconds to just breathe deep. And again, if you want to keep your eyes open, that's fine. But I find that, most of us have an easier time really getting into that, just quiet, more at ease mindset if you close your eyes and just breathe. And again, just 30 seconds, that's all it takes. And just start from there. And once you start to get really good at that, maybe you can even dedicate more of your time during your day to doing that. But I think just generally for now, if you just don't know where to start and you're just really caught up in those anxious or nervous thoughts and feelings, I think that's a really just great basic deep breathing exercise to do. And again, it's about really feeling the physical sensations that's happening as you're taking those deep breaths. And that's where the mindfulness part starts to really come in. So hopefully you kind of learn like how your body responds to like shutting everything off kind of around you for at least 30 seconds and taking advantage of that time in that moment to do that. And I think that there's a reason why world-class athletes implement this same exact type of deep breathing and mindfulness into their training. When you force yourself to stop and be mindful and just breathe for 30 seconds, it changes the way you move forward and react from that situation. I think there's something that kind of removes your emotions from that, and it really does clear your head. There's just something about doing that. I don't know. I just think that's really helpful, and I think it's one of those things we don't take advantage enough of when we're very stressed and just really in a chaotic spot, or we're really nervous about to go do something. Again, I'll bring in like a business example. Like if you're really, unsure of like this next sale that you're trying to make or public speaking, there's a physical change that comes when you practice that. you know, just right before, or if you practice that like repeatedly before that kind of event comes, you know, there's a sense of calm and ease of tension that just makes that a little more feasible, a little bit more manageable. It kind of it's kind of you getting more control over your not only your physical state but your mental state when you do that. So take the time to do that for yourself and just see what happens. Even if you're not a full believer in deep breathing or mindfulness or, you know, that kind of concept, I dare you to just try it and see what happens, and I think you'll find that at least one positive thing comes from it, maybe. But yeah, anyway, with that, I'll kind of move back into like, again, this is a little bit more of a mindset shift, but it's something you can also physically do when it comes to having a fear or anxiety, or when you're just kind of at a loss for like how to get through it. Something that I don't think I was told as an athlete enough of was, you know, don't skip steps. Again, I think this kind of comes with the idea of like, don't force yourself through it. Like you can't, sometimes there's just going to be days where your fear or your anxiety or just your, you know, lack of confidence, it's just going to be a little bit too much for you to handle, and that's okay. But I think the idea of like starting wherever you're able to start, you know, is a good yeah, mental but also physical thing to keep in mind of. So again, I'm gonna bring in a gymnastics example because that's how I know like how to translate it, but I'm sure you can, you know, fill in the blank with, you know, whatever example is suitable for you right now if you're going through a fear or an anxiety, or if you're just trying to build confidence. So for example, like if I'm a gymnast and I'm trying to get this new skill that's really scary, and I'm starting on the low beam, so the beam that's closest to the floor, definitely not as scary as going up on the high beam where there's like 4 feet of space, you know, underneath, and there's, you know, more room to fall, right? So instead of starting like on the high beam and just trying to chuck it and go for it without, you know, like getting my confidence good enough on the low beam first, you have to start where you're able to start, right? You have to be able to get to a place where you're confident somewhere, right? So in other words, it's like working backwards. So let's say, I mean, again, I guess this is fresh on my mind. So the public speaking event, let's think about that. So instead of maybe, you know, if you want to get into public speaking and you want to get better at it, don't pick the, you know, the 10,000 chair arena to maybe start that journey. You know, that's not exactly maybe the most reasonable, or like that's not, you won't feel confident doing that, right? You won't do as good of a job as you would maybe in like starting with like your friends and family, like just maybe standing up and speaking in front of them to practice, right? So hopefully that's a good analogy that makes sense to some of you. Or, you know, instead of trying to sell something to, you know, Microsoft or Apple, like if you're trying to sell them an app or an idea or something, I don't know, maybe start with, you know, the more indie companies, or, you know, the smaller brands or people, like smaller groups of people that aren't as well known. Maybe, you know, start with like the smaller place first, and the more, like, you'll just feel more confident there. So again, back to that, getting that 7 out of 10 confidence, you're more likely to have that 7 out of 10 confidence starting like on the low beam or the floor, or, you know, with your friends and family, as opposed to like the 10,000 seat arena, you know? So again, hopefully that makes sense. And the main point I want to get across from that is, you know, you can't skip the steps. You have to start from the beginning. We all were beginners at something at some point in our life, right? It's like you can't run before you can walk, you know? So hopefully that makes sense. And another thing I like to tell my athletes that kind of comes along with that idea is control what you can control. You know, you have control over your thoughts, your actions, your body. You know, start from where you truly are. Again, it's controlling what you can control as moments pass and in the moment you're currently in right now. And so with that comes, you know, you have to be honest with yourself, and you have to figure out what you need to be confident in order to keep going. If you need to move back up, like move back and work backwards, do that. You know, do what you can to feel confident and then move forward instead of skipping those steps. So for example, you know, asking for help. If you need help, if you need to talk to someone about it, talk to someone about it. Or if you need to be left alone and you need space and you got people around you bugging you, you know, do that. Like, you know, say, hey, like, I just need some space right now. I'm really trying to work through this. I'll get back to you in a second here. But I think right now I just need to be, by myself and try and work this out on my own, for whichever side of the spectrum you fall on, basically just get what you need. And I think it's going to take you doing that homework and that due diligence to figure out what you need. We all need different things. We all have different personalities. So it's kind of asking yourself those questions, like as you're trying to work out, whatever issue or fear or problem it is, you need to figure out what you need to succeed. So, at the end of the day, no one else is going to do that for you. And I try and remind my athletes of that all the time. But, you just kind of have to, again, it's doing your own homework, start from wherever you're able to, don't skip steps, but you figure out what those steps are and what you need to do that, okay? So another note that I wanted to mention that has really resonated with me over time and looking back on my athletic career and my academic career. So I think it's important to remember that confidence is the opposite of fear. It's not necessarily like, I have no fear, like I got rid of my fear, I'm fearless, like nothing, I just don't have it. I think fear and confidence can live in the same place, right? But I think the point is as long as your confidence outweighs your fear, that's what I think is, most important to realize and recognize. There were skills that I competed all throughout my gymnastics career, like really easy skills that I learned when I was younger, and I was still, still scared to do those things when I was older, like years later. But the way I managed to get through that and still compete despite those fears was my confidence outweighed my fear. There came a point where I realized I'd done so many repetitions of it that, like, even though I had that thought, just nagging in the back of my head, like, even though I know, like, this skill is still really scary, it's just I didn't let the fear outweigh my confidence, and I just got to a point where I was like, okay, I know I'm a little bit scared, but that's okay, and I'm still gonna go for it, and everything's gonna be fine no matter what. And even if it isn't fine, even if I do fall, or even if I do hurt myself, that's not enough to keep me from going for it. I know that I can get through injury or making a mistake and learning from it, and not be perfect. I didn't let, like, perfection, like the idea of perfection, like, scare me to the point where I wouldn't do the skills I needed to do anymore, right? So I hope that also makes sense to you guys and stays with you in the back of your head as you're, working through your fear, building your confidence. And I think that's really the most mentally tough people, like what they think as well. I mean, I'm sure any Olympian you ask, or any, important CEO, or just any high-level person that comes to your mind or as an example in your life, they still have fears, of course. Like, who doesn't? I think it's just a matter of their confidence, is just stronger, and it just overrides any kind of fear they have. So I do think fear and confidence can live in the same place, but just don't let your fear outweigh your confidence. Hopefully it's the other way around. And so throughout all these things, I think another message to take away from today is take things one step at a time. Like I said earlier, don't skip steps. That doesn't help you. That doesn't build your confidence. Follow each progression as prescribed by either your boss or your coach or your teacher, or your own best decision-making capabilities. Maybe you're the one in charge right now and there's no one else around you that's giving you any specific guidance, but you know what you need to do, so follow those instincts and don't skip steps. And I think, finally, when it comes to the fear, it comes down to, just take the risk and go for it. Chances are if you fall down or fail completely, no matter what it is, I don't think it will be as bad as you thought it would be. Like if you're really trying to think up like all the things that could go wrong when you're trying to get through this fear, most fears either stem from being scared of the unknown or being scared of like failure or making mistakes or pain, maybe physical pain or emotional pain that comes with it. No matter what kind of, thing that you're scared of, or even if you don't know what you're scared of, really, if you logically think about it, no matter what thing is, whatever roadblock is in your way, even if it all goes wrong, there's still ways to overcome that, from falling down and making mistakes or hurting yourself, or like even those things shouldn't stop you from, trying to go for whatever you need to go for. So again, just like take the risk and go for it. And whatever happens after that, you'll handle it from there. But don't get your thoughts so far ahead that they blind you from even like going for it. I guess that's the paralysis by analysis kind of thing. Some things you just gotta just go for it, take the risk, and challenge yourself and push yourself outside your comfort zone, you know. And I think I briefly mentioned this earlier, but I hope you know that no matter what you do or don't do, you know, no matter what your fear is, no matter what your anxiety is because of, no matter what you do or don't do, like let's say you never overcome this fear, man, and it's just like, it's petrified you. Even if that's the case, or let's say, even if you do overcome it and then something else comes along and it's like, oh, I feel like I just got knocked down 10 steps. No matter what, you are still a worthy and valuable person. And I think a lot of the times we attribute our personality or our accomplishments, like we put together our lack of fear or our super high confidence with like who we are as a person. And I think that's just like the worst mistake you could make. And that's something I wish I could have changed about my athletic career and my academic career. I attributed too strongly like my personality and my decisions and my sport and like what I did and what I didn't do. I let those things kind of define who I was, not just to myself, but to the rest of the world. And I think that's just a huge mistake. And I urge you to not mix all of those things together. You can still be an excellent person and an excellent athlete and still have fears and things maybe you didn't accomplish, you know? So that's like the main message I guess I wanted to end on when it comes to like the, just getting through those fears and building that confidence. But now I kind of want to move into the, you know, taking it to the next level when it comes to building that really full mental toughness and like really getting past those fears and pushing yourself outside your comfort zone. That's what I kind of want to get into now. So I think a good place to start when it comes to like, if you want to build yourself even higher than you've already done, I think starting with your strengths is a good place to start. Like maybe starting with your weaknesses isn't always the best place to go, especially if you're not in the greatest mindset or in the greatest, you know, mental place. No matter where you are, whether you're feeling great or not feeling great, start with your strengths. Look at those. Ask yourself what your strengths are, and then writing them down. Like take what you know and writing it down and taking inventory of what you're great at. I think that's a great place to start when it comes to building yourself into a better leader and taking yourself to the next level. So again, ask yourself questions and write down your answers. And just an example of those are, you know, what are you good at mentally and physically? What makes you unique? That's another really great question. I don't think we ask ourselves very often. What do you like about yourself? And that could be limited to, you know, maybe you like certain physical attributes about yourself, or maybe you like your laugh, or maybe you like your ability to make others laugh, or maybe another thing to think about is, what do you value the most? You know, what brings you that feeling? Like, what's a really strong pillar in your life that you value? How do you make others happy? You know, maybe instead of thinking inward, if that's a challenge for you, thinking about how you help others. What do you offer other people? What have you done for other people lately? What makes you a good teammate, friend, student, employee, you name it, just family member. Starting like with taking inventory of your strengths, I think is a great way to not just build confidence, but to, help others find their confidence too. So if you're really struggling to find your confidence, maybe going outside of yourself and helping others do something like get a skill, or volunteering your time to help other people, you'd be so surprised how much in return you get and how much confidence that builds within yourself. And I think the most mentally tough people do that too. They take their time and share it with others, so that's one place to start. But so let's say you've done that and you're feeling super duper confident, you're getting through these fears, you're less and less anxieties are controlling you, you're finding your control in your world. At that point, then you can address those weaknesses. Where can you improve? Where's a weak spot in your life? Where can you challenge yourself and push yourself farther, and getting out of your comfort zone? How can you expand your experience, your growth? I think those are, of course you have to address your weaknesses too, but start with your strengths and then your weaknesses, I think is a good way to go no matter where you are on the confidence scale. So if we're going to bring back in, the 1 to 10, no matter where you lie on it, starting with your strengths, then working on your weaknesses is a great way to go. And then I think with that, so in that process, here's like a concrete way to, do that, okay? And how do we practice that, you know? What I like to tell my athletes, or just any client that I have, you know, no matter what age you are, I think this works a lot with younger kids, but I've done this before as a college student, and that's where I learned this tip. It actually helps me a lot. So what I do, or what I did, is, you know, create a physical representation or manifestation of that confidence. So again, we're talking about, you know, thinking about your confidence as like a piggy bank. So once you know, you keep adding to the piggy bank, right? Your confidence grows and grows and grows, and you know, you can't take, you know, you don't take out of the confidence jar once you've already put in it, right? Until, I mean, in theory, like once it fills up, then, you know, you just start over. But for the time being, imagine your confidence as a piggy bank, or maybe you have like a confidence jar or a strengths jar. So every time you do something well, or you feel accomplished, or you found that you have a strength, like this is something you're really good at, or maybe if it's even just you're feeling happy and grateful, you know, make it a grateful or a gratitude jar or something, or a gratitude piggy bank. You write down what you did and add it to that container, you know, no matter what it is. And again, the idea of like seeing your confidence grow as you put in more and you identify, you know, the strengths you've built up over time. It's just so magical, like seeing a physical representation or manifestation of that taking place. I think that's just one, like, you know, one way to do it, and, you know, get creative with it, have fun with it. I think building confidence should be a fun thing. It shouldn't be like a chore. It shouldn't be like, you know, it shouldn't be laborious. I mean, it's going to be hard, but I think when it comes to tracking it, that should be fun and add to the experience too. So, you know, use a piece of paper, like rip them up and, you know, tear them up and write something on a small piece of paper, put it in. Maybe use stickers or colored markers or like marbles. You know, just get creative with it, have fun with it, and just find what works for you. You know, it doesn't have to be super like elaborate. It just, you know, basically find a way to track your confidence and like physically like manifest it. So even though it can be stuff you think of in your head, find a way to make it physical and tangible and trackable. So hopefully that makes sense and can apply to you in your life. And the final note I want to end on, if you take away anything from what I talked about today, one thing we can all do, and something I practice daily, is practice gratitude. And I know I've briefly mentioned it with the previous exercise and example. You know, I said, you know, write a gratitude list or make a gratitude journal, or put your gratitude thoughts into like a jar, like physically write them down. Anyway, my point is, like with that, what I do, at least for like my personal example of that, because I wouldn't tell someone to do something that I wouldn't do myself, you know, write down every day what you're grateful for and just see what happens. Again, I dare you, 7 days, like just once a day, or, you know, break it up into chunks throughout the day. I think doing that for 1 week straight and seeing how your mindset and approach to life changes, like there's something about the physical act of writing down what you appreciate most and like how your brain rewires itself. There's just something to it. I think, again, it comes with the physical act of taking thoughts in your head, putting them on a physical object, and physically like seeing yourself write it down. You know, there's something that comes, like once that becomes a habit, that really forces your brain to rewire itself to being more positive, to being more grateful, to, you know, getting out of your comfort zone and getting out of that negativity. You know, I think it just takes like giving yourself that homework every day, and then before you know it, it will be a habit. It's just gonna be something that comes naturally to you, and you won't have to like practice as hard, you know? Like I'm sure maybe the first couple days you try and do that, just writing down those 3 things, it may be really hard. You know, being grateful, again, it's not necessarily an easy task, but it's a simple one. So I think no matter what is happening in your life right now, we all have at least 3 things that we can be grateful for every day, or things that we appreciate, or things that we value, or things that happen to us. Even if it was something out of your control, you can still be grateful for it, right? And I really do think that this is something that's truly life-changing, and it's life-changing if you make it a priority to you. And really, at the end of the day, I think mentally tough people, and, you know, mentally tough people are grateful people, no matter what circumstances are taking place in their life. So I hope all of those things, you know, resonated with you, or even just one of those things resonated with you. Thank you for listening. I guess I'll just go ahead and talk about, how to contact me if you have any questions, feedback, and if you want to learn more about me, what I do in my business, you can email me. Again, my name is Briley Casanova, so you can email me at briley@completeperformancecoaching.com. My name, Briley, is spelled Briley. So yeah, reach out anytime if you have any questions or comments for me. I'd really appreciate it either way. Just, even just saying hello, I look forward to hearing from you. And my website, Complete Performance Coaching, that's the company I work for. It's just completeperformancecoaching.com. I work with a wonderful team of mental performance coaches of all different, specialties and their expertise. We've just got such a great team right now, and I'm really proud to be a part of it. And I'm so glad that we get to share our services online mostly. And of course, I'm also in the Dallas, Texas area, so I of course work in person as well. If that's, something that you're interested in, please reach out and ask, and I'd love to talk to you about that. But I'm also very proud and glad that the Complete Performance Coaching team, we all work from all over the country, and we work online through Skype, FaceTime, and Zoom, you name it, we do it all. So the other ways you can get in touch with me and learn more about me, I'm on social media. So my Instagram handle is Mental Coach Briley. You'll see my headshot, and I'm there on Instagram, and I'm also on Twitter at Mental Coach Bry. My pictures are my headshot from this event, and they're the same across all of my platforms, I'm pretty sure. So, and finally, you can also find me on YouTube. Just search my name, Briley Casanova, Briley, and Casanova is Casanova. So thank you so much for your time. Again, I hope this was helpful to at least one person out there watching. And if not, let me know, because I want to work with people and make my knowledge consumable for everyone. So all of your feedback, comments, and questions are so much appreciated, and I will definitely get back to you once I hear from you. So thank you so much again. I had a wonderful time speaking with you today. I hope you choose to pursue excellence instead of perfection, and I wish you the best moving forward. So thank you again, and I hope to hear and talk to you again. Bye.